Hello, everybody. Well, hello. Uh, hello, everybody. Welcome in. Thank y'all for joining again. We'll get started here in a few minutes. Uh, thank you for joining. Happy Monday. We'll get started here in about, I don't know, three to 4 to 5 minutes, somewhere in that range. All right. Like I said, we'll get started here in just a couple minutes. Welcome all the regulars, everybody that's in here. If you do have any specific questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll start getting some eyes on them, and we'll take questions in the order in which they're received. So if you don't have any questions and you're just here to hang out and learn something, that's fine too. We can kind of go over some fun stuff. So we'll give it a couple more minutes. Hopefully some people will join up with some questions. But again, if you have some, feel free to put them in the chat and we will start putting some eyes on them. But again, happy Monday. So we'll probably get started here at 12:06, whether or not people are here or not. So we'll give it about 2.5 more minutes, and then we will start lunching and learning. All right. We got some more people joining. So again, if you have any questions, hey, James, welcome back. Second time today. Jeremy, BT, anybody's got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We've got some couple of people on this side of the line. We can start putting some eyes on stuff. Um, you know, whatever's good for everybody. And thank you guys again for attending. Oh, we got one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. System constants and flow templates. Let's do it, man. I'm going to go ahead and get started because we got a question and I don't want to, hold anybody hostage here. So James, you asking about system constants and flow templates. What's your end goal here? What's your use case?
Um, so I think I discussed this last week about how I'm trying to set up database connections to our different
Okay.
environments where it's the same essential database, but they point to physical different databases depending on, if you're in development, Q&A,
Yeah,
prod,
I
whatever.
remember. Mm-hmm.
And so I've set up some, what I want to do is set up some system constants so that I can do a truth table depending on what environment we're in and make the database connection string to that specific environment so that I don't have to set up these databases specifically all the way every time I move up the stack to a different, to Q&A prod,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah, yeah.
I see that decisions automatically creates, whenever you create an integration to a database, it automatically creates a system constant with that connection in it. And that connection is password. It's designated as a password, so it's encrypted, which is understandable. Um, I would love to use that connection. When it says, connect, use. There's a button up when you run a query that says you can connect using a different source or supply the connection string or something like that. And I would love to use that variable
Okay.
because that way I could create my own variables throughout the stack, and just depending on what environment it is, just point to that variable that's got that encrypted string in it. But it won't, when you do that, use other, connection string. If you try to point back to that system variable, it won't work because it's encrypted. So it looks like it only wants a pure string value. And I don't know if there's a way to de-encrypt those strings before you pass them on, or have it use those.
Yes, that's a good one. Let's see.
Do you have a database integration set up? Because I can show you the string that it connects to.
We can definitely set one up together if you want to walk me through what you're working with.
Do you have, let me see your database. Let me see your integrations tab, your databases, see if you already have one set up here. Integrations, databases. Okay, looks like you do. That JL address master data. Okay, now go into designers.
Okay.
Yeah. And look up lists and constants about halfway down the page there.
Yeah.
Now look,
Did I click
no,
something?
yeah, you click something else, I think.
Okay. Sorry about that.
It's, yeah,
Uh,
right, you're almost to up, 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 up. You
yep.
pass it, it's called look up lists and
Sorry.
constants.
There you go. Thank you, man.
There it is. Now, see that database, the second one
Hmm.
down?
Yeah.
That's a connection string. Decisions makes that automatic. If you click into that and you say edit it, scroll down a little bit so you see that?
Yeah.
Decisions did that
Hmm.
when you created the connection. And I would imagine that string value is the connection string. Like if you were to just go into an advanced edit on those integrations, it will show you the whole connection string,
Okay.
password included,
Hmm.
which is, not great, but that's why it probably can. And I would imagine that when you make a connection to a query or to a table, when you connect to that database with any of your steps, this is what it uses to make that connection. That's what I'm thinking, because otherwise, why would you bother with this?
Right.
I just don't know how they do that, because when I try to run a query and I say, I want to use my own connection, if I point to this, it will not connect.
Jared, can you confirm that that's how that password works? I mean, I'm sure it does create automatically, but that
It
what
just
he was,
masks whatever's in
Well,
that
the
string.
the main test would be let's go into a flow, Robert, and let's
yeah.
connect and let's like use one of those steps and then say use different um
Right,
connection string because that will be able to help us replicate the issue.
right,
It could be maybe that's the functionality, or it might be, a bug. Because it should be able to, even if it's masked, because
right.
I can talk about how encryption works a little bit from the decisions perspective. So the database, when you install, there's a keys.dat file. And basically with
Hmm.
that keys.dat file, when you install decisions, it utilizes it to decrypt things that you may want to encrypt. So let's say you have like
Gotcha.
like financial loan data from students with financial aid. You want to encrypt their, social security number.
Hmm.
But the flow, when they look at it, it will just look like masked data.
Right,
But when it runs, it will actually use the keys.dat file to decrypt it and then utilize that for whatever you have to
right,
process, right?
right,
But it's still secure, so you're not just giving sensitive
right,
data out there.
right.
Um, yeah, so in here, so let's go ahead, let's add an integration step. So you have to go into the integrations category. And then we're going to go to database.
Right. You pick that database.
And
Um,
then I think go to
Well, what I had done is created a query in that database, and I was trying to run the query with a different, with the
Just, oh,
specific
run define
concept.
query, that's what you're using?
Right. Well,
Okay.
not run define. It was a query created under that database. Like if you bring up that connection, you can say create query,
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
and then it'll show up here under that
Gotcha.
database.
Okay, so I'll open up another tab, Robert,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're gonna make a query integration. And how you do that is you create data types and integrations. For any integration, this is just for everyone. If we create an integration into the system or into a database, we will utilize that function there as well. So in this case, we want a database integration because we're talking about databases. And then we want to actually add a query. So go ahead and add a query and leave it on the local connection, Robert.
Okay.
That'll be fine. And hit next. And what we'll do is go ahead and say this is the what's a small account? Let's say this is the get all accounts query. So get accounts query. It's got to be one word. Otherwise, it's gonna yell at you and say it's not
So
valid.
is this going to work with the local account? Because I'm trying to connect to a external database when, in my case.
I have
This
no
one is,
idea.
this
Mm,
one's just connecting to the native, your native decisions database, correct?
correct.
Correct.
And so
Which,
the test that I'm doing is I'm trying to say I'm going to call this query from the local connection, confirm it works that way, then switch the
okay,
connection to call the other database. And what we should get is like that table doesn't exist, right? Like that's
okay.
how we'll know.
It
That's how
should
we'll
at
know it
least
works.
attempt to run the query.
Exactly. It should at least connect to it is what we're trying to test.
Okay,
If it says can't connect to connection string, then we know, okay, we've
okay,
replicated
okay.
that issue that you have. In the query, Robert, just type select space asterisk space from space entity underscore account
Select space, asterisk space. Sorry about that.
from and then entity underscore account.
Entity underscore account.
And then go ahead and run that query just to make sure it works. I always misspelled the table name whenever it is. Okay, cool. That works. We got 30 in a row. So go ahead and click OK. And then that's going to create that. And then we can go in and create that test to see if it works. And we've confirmed, and while we're waiting for this load, Robert, have we confirmed that we created that connection string as a constant in the system?
We
I
have
think I
not.
saw it. I think
Okay,
I saw
let's.
it earlier.
I think it does for the local connection as well.
Yeah. For the
It's under
local,
designers,
well, this local listen constants first. Because I think
right,
that's your situation, right?
right, right. Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
yeah, so
Okay,
we do. So database connection string JL. Okay, perfect.
yeah,
That's fine.
yeah.
So now flip back to the other studio on the other tab real quick, and then go ahead and close this and then log back in because I don't think the query will be there. Now it should be once it loads. Scroll down to integration. You can't search for these steps, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Database. And then expand the local
Local
connection, and we should have a query inside of it. Yeah. So we're gonna say run query get accounts.
Yep.
Cool. And then just connect it up to the end step. And now the specific thing that James is talking about is when you click on the step itself, and go ahead and limit the count to just grab 5 records. Just this way we're not waiting for like a really long query because there
Yeah.
could be a lot of data. So just constant 5. And then click off, back on, scroll down. All right, cool. So now scroll up because obviously this will work. So now see how it says override the connection string?
Mhm.
That checkbox. So that's the thing that we're using here. So click off,
Right.
click back on, and then we'll have a new input property called connection string. So now select from flow and grab the one from the constants.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And
what I
this
was
one's going to
saying.
be system constants. We have to drill down into that and then see how we have the JL address master data. Yeah, go ahead
Mhm.
and connect that one. And then this one will fail, but we
Yeah,
want
the
to see
query
what the
should fail, but the
failure is.
connection should work, right? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly. So the type
yeah,
of failure we're
yeah, this would
expecting, right?
definitely be my case scenario right
Okay,
here.
cool. So
So
then go
just
ahead and
being able to
debug
connect.
this. Perfect. So yeah, it's going to go down the fail path. We know that for sure.
Yeah,
So you
looks like it's,
just wait for it to run a little bit. And we're going to see what happens because it should.
mine failed pretty quick. It failed.
Okay, now go to the outputs of the step. And I think also, yeah, go to the outputs of the actual, yeah. Just output data. We don't need to. It's not related, so it's a resource temporary unavailable, which I don't think is the same thing. What else? Server
It's,
not access.
yes, has that, it can't access the
Okay, so you do
query
get
thing.
this.
And if you look at the input, you'll see just the gobbledygook string. So it's not a string
Mhm.
that I don't think it's passing a string that this step can interpret as the connection string.
Gotcha. Let's try another one. Close this,
Hmm.
Robert, and let's try
Yeah.
the other one. I just want to confirm this is a good test. Scroll down. We have to change the connection string one more time.
Yeah.
So select from flow. Still using database. We're not going to use local, but use the address data one. And then debug that. Okay, inputs, outputs here. Okay, so here we go. So it looks like that's not what we're getting.
Yeah, see that connection string though is not encrypted there. That's why it
Yeah.
worked. But it
Well,
did, it just couldn't run the
well,
query this time.
but it is encrypted. Can you switch over to the thing,
Is
Robert?
it?
I think so.
Well,
You could be
then
right.
it encrypted it on the fly then. Let's see.
Right click, edit, see if it says password masked. Yeah, so it's
It does.
masked. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how come it didn't work on the other one then?
The other one, I noticed it was connecting to a server that we decommissioned a year ago. So that's why I didn't think that
Oh,
was a valid test. But this one,
well,
that server we still use for training,
let's,
so that's why I wanted to use that one.
okay, let me check I'll double check my thing, but I wasn't, if that works, that's great. Because then I can use
Mhm.
those system values and what I can do is, uh, what I want to do is just manipulate a couple of connection string properties
Sure.
and save it with that password on so
Mhm.
that it's encrypted basically. But then as I move these things up the stack, I just point to the one I want to point to
Mhm.
in that
Sure.
system variable. And then I don't have to touch it anymore. Once I've got the connection set up, I can move it to
Mhm.
whatever environment I want. As long as that environment's in that, I'm going to create a truth table
Mhm.
that just looks for the environment name and says, okay, I need to pick this one. And that's the
Sure.
one it picks. But I
Mhm.
didn't want, the only thing I mean, I can do that now with a straight string, but I
Mhm.
kind of didn't want to do that with a straight string. So you couldn't readily see that in the flow. So a
Mhm.
designer couldn't go in there and just see the connection strings. And, if we didn't want them to see it, they would have to have administrative privileges to see that.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I will try that again. Maybe I did something wrong. And if that does
Yeah,
work, if
it could.
that's
It,
great.
yeah, it could be that because I know you're using Oracle, right?
Yes, I am.
Could you
Yes.
flip over on Google, Robert, open up a tab, just Google like Oracle connection
Maybe
strings.
that's it.
It could be that there's something like that's messed up with the Oracle connection string or version or something. Yeah,
Okay.
format. Oracle connection string format's the first one right there. You already have it. First one right there. And so some of these maybe you might have to try different iterations of it, but I'm sure your ops team could help you out with that part. But
Yeah.
typically, if you see those, that's kind of what
Yeah.
that happens.
I've got the string for, I mean, if I put it in as a straight string, it works.
Really?
It's
Okay.
only when I was trying it as a password string, when you, in the local variable, changed it to password where it encrypted it,
Interesting. Okay, I gotcha.
then it didn't work.
Hmm.
So, I mean, if I got to do it that way, because it looks like when you ran it under the password thing anyway, it
Hmm.
decrypted the string. So that kind
Yeah.
of defeats the purpose as far as what I was trying to accomplish. I just didn't want
Gotcha.
designers being able to see that string and, just
Hmm.
in case, because
Right.
sometimes we have student, um, people helping and stuff, and they really shouldn't have access to our, admin account,
Hmm.
database passwords and accounts and stuff like that. So that's what I
Absolutely.
was trying to avoid. But all
Yeah.
right, I'll
Well,
just keep working on that then.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm trying to think
that
about the mass thing because it
I
does
was
do
hoping there
that.
was a way to
I
like
thought there
decrypt it just before
was.
it went in there, but then that would probably show up in the flow too. So
Yeah, and I thought there was a way. I'm gonna take this offline too. Let me write down like because they're like there. I thought there was an obfuscation. let me type that in my notepad and I'll talk to people because I know there's other people who have in the same situation, especially with, we have people in government, we have people in healthcare, right? And that's also some very secure
Sure.
environments as well.
Sure.
And so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's a way that they got around it, or that they were able to
Yeah,
supply what they
'cause
need. So let me search for that and I'll
I
email
would
you.
I would imagine that's the whole purpose of having that password, you
Mhm,
know, in this constant value here is
mhm,
so that you can pass this in steps and stuff, and nobody can tell what it actually is.
correct.
So I mean, and what we were seeing before, even though it was designated as password, it was decrypting it right in the debug flow. So you
Exactly,
could
yeah,
see it anyway, and that's not what you want in that case. You want it to be still pass, protect masked, basically.
exactly. 100%. So yeah, let me research. I'll send you an email later
Cool,
today of what I find and how people work around that.
cool. I will move aside and let anybody else talk now.
No, thank you, man. That was it's informative on my end too. I'm learning too. I think that was yeah. Thank you. Looks like VT has a question. Maybe let's see. Hey, VT. Oh, there you go. I'll let you in. How can we help you today, VT?
Hey, I just wanted, while you're still here, can you change
Mhm.
from password to string so you can see under that mask? Um, okay, so you can still see it if you go to DevTools in browser. You should be able to see, I guess.
What are
If you open up DevTools in browser,
F12? Is that right? This one?
yeah, and just inspect this.
I'm not super familiar with this. Where would I go from here, sir?
You just select this element or try to right click and inspect.
Mm-mm. No, I'm not getting any of those options. Oh, and I can inspect this.
In DevTools, top left corner, there is an icon. You can use that and then try to select this mask. So you can see in the DevTools input, and you can see that connection string. See it? Under span input right in the middle.
Yeah. Hopefully that's
So
helping.
it's not encrypted.
Okay. So it's not encrypted.
Yes. And for James, if James creates a
Yeah,
connection, like all those connections in dev, then you migrate our repository to another server. It will not be able to decrypt because that key file that Jared was talking about is going to be different.
right, right. Okay.
That's why you'll need to create those connections separately on each environment and then use that as system constant.
Yeah. I mean, I can create them in one environment because I know what the strings will be as they move up the stack. It's just they'll just be in each environment.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, because I mean it's not a deal breaker so much. It's just it would have been it's a nice to have because it's just connecting to that's what we're going to use to connect to the databases. And these databases only have select access. They're not, it's just to grab some data off them and you can.
And
Uh,
Jeremy, your follow-up question is you just want to be included in on the follow-up with Jared. Is that right?
Correct, because yeah, that having those remain hidden in the debug flow would be something useful to have.
Okay.
Because I do have some things that we're using like AD service accounts to do things, and having those passwords hidden no matter what would be a good thing to have.
Okay. Just make sure, yeah.
yeah, it's a little concerning that you can pull it up and inspect it using that.
And I see Jared typing away, so I think he's looking for answers and through our we have a team of people that are available, so hopefully
Yeah,
maybe some kind of follow-up is best.
yeah.
But
Robert, on that element as well, where you see type, if you change it from password to text, you'll be able to see it on UI as well in that input element.
It comes
There,
up with a message that says you can't do that when you
no,
try to do that.
in DevTools in input, Just change
Oh,
type
okay.
password to text. Highlight this element again.
Sorry about that. I'm not
Yeah,
texting.
yeah. Change it to text.
Ah,
So you can see
wow.
it in this way as well.
Wow, that's yeah. So that's not a true math. It's not a true like encryption type thing.
Yeah,
That the way
it's
I
just mask. It's just type
right, it's
of
just
the
math.
input.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just math. So what I was thinking Decisions was doing was actually it had like a built-in um decryption and encryption thing for these types of fields that it would run through.
James, in the background, it may be encrypted. Just when you try to edit that, it will decrypt it on the fly. Same is when you use it in Flow. So if you actually go to query editor and try to fetch this
Right.
data, that's going to be encrypted in database. So Decisions UI does it here and in the Flow using that key file that Jared was talking about.
Oh, so okay, I see. So the database at the database level, it probably is encrypted, and you could not see it if you just selected it off the database.
Yeah.
But since it's in the UI and it's passing, it's already basically decrypting it and just sending it here to the page with a mask on it. It's already decrypted.
Yeah, but if you will migrate this one over to the next to another server environment which has different key, you will
Right.
not be able to
Yeah, I
see it.
understand that. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Yeah, for our Oracle servers, we make sure that that encryption routine is the same on the server, so we can do this type of thing. We can pass it. We can pass data from one environment to the next, like from our dev to our Q&A, and it will encrypt correctly and decrypt correctly. We don't have to worry about a key in those cases. Okay, well, I see what you're saying now. That makes total sense. That it's doing it for the UI and is so it's still password protected at the database level, which is the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And since you were talking about a truth table, utilizing a truth table, you like, I don't know if like this may not be the use case, but if you're going to be having multiple, maybe you might be spinning up new database connections that you may need to have, you need something more dynamic. You can use an external truth table. Close and save this, Robert, and go to create data types and integrations and go to the database structure. What you can do is as you database structure, this goes into what kind of VT was saying. If you just type in a value in the name property, Robert, and then click on that property, expand advanced, you can allow the encrypt the data there so it's encrypted and the Decisions knows how to decrypt it on when it goes through.
Jared, one thing about this one, if you report on that field, you will not be able to. If you use like a get,
right. But it's connection strings, right? So I presume you wouldn't be utilizing the
funny
function
thing
for it.
that those fields that are generated by Decisions for that will not show you that data, but if you use fetch entities, that how you can see that data in Flow. That's kind
So
of,
you're saying it
I
would
don't know if it's
still
a bug.
debug that so you say you would still,
Yeah,
if you decrypt it.
If you use fetch entities, you will be able to see this encrypted data. If you use like a
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's correct.
right.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think as far as in the designer is concerned, if you're a developer, there at some point along the way, a developer is going to be able to see that string. I mean, I don't know that there's a way you can completely hide it in
Yeah, so what I'm
developer.
looking about is, as I've found, I'm not sure if, hold on. I know there's a feature request put in for this very feature. Let me see if I can get some status on that. See where it's at in this stage of development or when it will be released.
Yeah, and I guess like I forget the gentleman's name that was helping me out here. But he was talking about if it moves up the stack into a different environment, that key might change. That would have to be something to be addressed too, because we wouldn't, if we haven't truly encrypted data, I personally wouldn't want to have to change, worry about a key going up the stack. It just needs to be the same encryption key that I created in dev that's going to work in Q&A. It's going to work in prod too. I don't have to go into these environments and mess with an encryption routine or something, or decryption routine to get it to decrypt correctly.
Sure. Yeah, I think also I'll submit a support ticket for you, James, because I do think you can get a support technician to help you with the specifics of that, and I think they would have more information than I would.
Yeah.
Because all I found with my quick search here was that there is a DT, but I'm not, or for a feature request for this. I'm not sure what the status of it. It doesn't really say, but I'm sure that there's some, like I said, because we have other customers who need this level of security. I'm sure that they would know like what they did to work around it.
Yeah.
So
I
I'll get
I
that
can
submitted
see
for
us maybe using this. I mean, right now, this, to me, that's a little bit lower level because these encryption
Okay.
strings for the database are one thing. Now, if you're talking about passing things back and forth between forms that might have like FERPA information on it or things of that nature, then we probably would want that in data to be encrypted, even from developers sometimes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think the form. I think it should be. I think we're probably good on the form side. I think it's just that debugger that we were talking
Okay,
about.
yeah,
So,
okay.
definitely
Cool.
let us know, and if it does happen, submit a support ticket, so that we can work on it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try that again.
Well, all right. Anybody else got anything else they'd like to talk about? I mean, we're all kind of, it's a nice happy bunch here today. If we're looking to close out, we can close out, but if anybody else has anything they'd like to talk about or bring up, or if you have any questions in the chat, I think it's just us three. We're all unmuted. Us five, I guess.
I had another one if no one else does. I mean,
Yeah,
I do
let's
not
chat.
want to, if
No,
anybody has a question,
no.
go for it, because I don't like hogging time either.
No, you're not hogging
Um,
time, and we're all learning here. It's like I think everybody in here is somewhat of a regular, so it's a nice, community environment.
So I had a question about templates because I just haven't used them that much.
Okay.
So I know I've talked to Jared before about the base flow template that you can change. I found where I can change that, and that means that for every flow I create,
Mhm.
it could have some extra steps like an exception handler already built
Sure.
into it,
Sure.
which I've definitely thought about doing that. But I'm wondering, is there a way that I could create a step or something that I could put into a flow each time, just drag it in there, that would basically be a subflow and not have to connect, like for the exceptions. I can create a subflow all day long, but a subflow has to be connected to something or it's not gonna work. It has to be connected to the catch exception, can I have that whole flow be able to drag it right over into is there a way I can do a template or something like that to drag into a flow that's basically a flow?
The subflow rings true for sounds correct to me. So you're saying you want to have a subflow that runs all of your exception handling, and you can attach the subflow by searching it for the toolbox and bring it in?
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't want to have to connect it to, because an exception, I mean, I guess they could be connected, but exception flow is typically just its own little thing sitting inside of a flow. It's not connected to any of the flow.
Right.
So I want to be able to pull that whole thing in and not connect it to my flow, because if I do it as just a subflow, I think it would just be a subflow would be hanging out there and it would give me that little nice exclamation point and not know what to do with it.
Can you attach it to this catch exception on exception and then attach it
See,
to the
that's what
flow?
I'm saying though.
Okay.
There's more steps that I want to just build. I could, each time I create a flow, I could
Mm-hmm.
bring over the catch exception, put a bunch
Right.
of different flows in there, and then the end point, and then, but that's 3 or 4, and I
Right.
want it to be very standard for my developers that say, just include this template in the top of your thing. And that's why I'm thinking about doing it with that base flow thing.
You could do that, or another thing you could do is close and save this, Robert. Is if you have go ahead and just create a flow, Robert, and then add a create data step and call it exception catcher, even though it isn't. It's just for sake of example. create data, and that's all I gotta do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
it's
sorry.
in the favorites
Yeah,
category, yeah.
yeah. Typing faster than I'm thinking.
No
Okay.
worries, and then just connect it. You don't
Oh.
even have to define data, like just literally just attach it, so it's just something, and then attach it to the end step. And then just name it like catch exception. Like obviously we all know it's not, this is just for illustration. And then also change the name of the flow to be like, let's say it's my project exception. So go ahead and close and save so that we can change the name to like, project exception catcher or whatever, right? Because I think this is what you're talking about. So let's say you have your project exception catcher flow. This is the one, and you want to utilize it and just have a template where people can utilize that stuff. Now, what you can do is close and save this. And then create another flow, Robert, and call this like flow, I would say like default flow with exception process. And then go ahead and add your catch exception step, Robert, and then add the other flow that we created. So you can change the base flow to just automatically have those steps. But it can be difficult, let's say, if there's certain projects where you don't want that particular
Right, that's why I was wanting to go down this road.
exactly. So what you can do here is just connect all the stuff up together, and then connect to the end step. Right, and then just move all that stuff down, just so it's nice and neat. On the same line as the, yeah. All right, so let's say you want your flow to look like this when a user creates a flow. So go ahead and save this.
There we go. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. And then close and save so you can exit out. And then you can right click that flow, the default flow with exception process. And then you can say, I think it's edit advanced. And then you could say make a template.
That's what I was looking for.
And then you'll say, do you want to make the template? You say yes. And then now go ahead and create another flow, Robert. And go ahead and go to, I think it's advanced. And where did we put it? I always forget where these things go. Nope, it's not that. Wait, you missed it. Go back down. Keep going, keep going. You can also pin these. You don't have to search for it. Unitus, nope, keep going, keep going.
I'm at the bottom.
I know you're at the bottom. No, like back up.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to figure out where it's at. Could you just search for it too? Like put the name of it.
All right, I forgot the name of it. Exception catcher.
Yeah, default. There we go. Default flow with exception process. So now we can say, yes, we want to create that one. And yes, add to favorites, please. So now you have it already favorited, so you don't have to do the log search that we did. Click on it, Robert, and call this FSU main flow, just for example. Right, and then create it. And then what you'll see here is as soon as you create, you'll automatically have that catch exception flow process.
That's exactly what I wanted to do right there. Okay, I just, because I had never done a template before. I knew there had to be a way to do a template, and that's, okay, gotcha. That's what I want to do. That way I can create a couple of different templates. In this situation, we want to do this, and because what I did is I wrote basically a generic exception based on your guys' module that you guys would put out, which is great. It's a great module. But I modified that just slightly.
Sure.
And I want to include it in all our flows because it does basic exception handling and it signs it out to administrators right now, which is that's perfect. That's all we need. If there's an unforeseen exception in the flow, I want somebody to know about it.
Exactly.
And be able to do something about it. So that's I want to have that, and I can see this expanding based on maybe different areas that might be different things or different. Slightly different exception handling, but yeah, this is exactly what I wanted right here. Cool. So an exception I could have too. I could have like, this could be anything, right? Because you're connected to the main endpoint, which my exception handling would have its own endpoint. But I could put that in there and that would be the
right.
So basically, you're creating just another base flow and you're saying, hey, use this template instead of just the base flow.
Exactly. Just favorite it because otherwise it takes forever to search because there's lots of flow behaviors.
Right.
Yeah.
James,
That's
you can
perfect.
also create templates for the forms so they look the same. And
Yeah,
on top of that, if you go to like a system like portal settings, you can use this as a base flow. So
right. That's the one I was
Yeah,
talking
but
about.
yeah, that's what we were trying to avoid because we don't want,
Right,
it's not best practice to mess with that. That's why
right.
we always encourage people to do just the template, right click, make the template and use those.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we've already started working on some template for, well, CSS templates anyway, for the look and
Mhm.
feel of forms and stuff like that, so that they're
Yep.
consistent. Yeah. Been pretty cool. I'm pretty impressed with Decisions, the way it works. There's not a lot you can imagine that it can't and doesn't do. So,
Awesome. Glad to hear it.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and thank you guys again for all joining and being regulars and all that. It's kind of cool to have like a little community tricks of the trade. Everyone's learning. Everybody's kind of getting information about how everyone's deploying stuff. It's really cool to be involved in. So I'm appreciative on my end too. So um if that's all we have for the day, I'll gladly take any more conversation pieces. But if that's all we have, we can kind of call it here and I can start bouncing it and all this stuff goes on YouTube. I'm sure you guys have heard before, but um if that's it, I think we'll go ahead and call it. I think tomorrow we have maybe Jeremy on. Jeremy's one of the smartest people I know, so he'll be able to give you some great information too.
Cool.
All right.
Appreciate it, guys.
No, thank you. Thank all y'all. I'll see
Yeah, take
y'all
care.
next time. Yeah, thank you.